got there in the end.
Okay. Well, just like this, or we're going to do the recording.
I would appreciate it if you moved closer to the microphone.
Can I move further away? Is that?
Come closer. Come closer. That's much better.
Yes. So I don't feel comfortable like this.
That just sounds quite good.
Really? Well, this is a good happy medium in between here. Yeah. Anyway, look, this is a show. What is it?
That's what it is. It is a show.
What we doing? Patreon.
So we're going to do regular show now. This is regular show. This is launch of season 4. Get it right.
So bad that the presenter doesn't know. Like, it shows a lack of interest.
Well, that's not true.
No, this is a new series, and we haven't recorded for about 3 weeks.
Something like that. Anyway, welcome. This is the Trout Spinners podcast with Miles Pennell and Gary Forrestal. Let's try and salvage this. Let's try and make a good show.
Destroyed that. So you cut me out of all of that.
Yeah.
And actually still be shit. But
how are you, Gary?
Yeah, not too bad. I was sort of, I'm suffering. I've really suffered.
Oh, here we go.
I wouldn't have even said, but I've had a bad case of COVID. But
he has
not needed a drip, but I never got admitted.
I just think it's mad how much of a reaction you had. How old are you?
Well, you know how old
I am. 38.
38. It happened just as I turned 38 as well.
Happy birthday.
You like that?
If you got a temperature, go hang out by the chicken fillets.
Yeah, I did.
And you did all that. With only your mum and your dad making you some noodle soup.
I had peas in the fridge.
Yeah.
And I held them on my head. But you have
you really?
You can't do it too much because you get frostbite.
Does anyone still have like frozen garden peas in their freezer anymore? I thought that's like a real 90s
Hey, I know thing. It does. Yeah. What are you talking about? A 90s thing?
Well, I don't know. Do people still keep like a bag of convenient frozen peas in their freezer?
Britpop era?
Yeah. So weren't they? Damon Albarn.
I quite like peas when I do make them sometimes, but I found it useful for. Like, there's other times I've had big bruises or something. If I fall
that's what I mean. They never get really used to be eaten, do they?
Really, no, but mine aren't. No, but I think they're out of date now anyway. But they're very good. You should never put them straight on the skin. You should put that down. But I was like hot and cold. I don't want to go on about this.
No,
I really
make a good job of it.
So I'm well enough today to do this.
A little cough.
I went to the shop and I felt really. I've done a lot of work. It's hard.
Well done. You're such a trooper, Gary. You're such a trooper.
Genuinely, it was really bad. Like, that's the only way. I only say that because that's why we haven't done it for the last week. And so, how are you?
Oh, I've not been that much better, if I'm honest with you. Let me see if I can get as much sympathy from the listeners as you did. I'm joking. I have I've got various an ongoing health condition, that's what I'm going to call it. Where I've been going in, having some tests. So that explains our absence. So I would love to make a joke about it, but it's all a bit annoying, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah. No, I'm desperate to as well, but
so anyway, so that's why I've not been.
Yeah, the sympathy should lie with me at the moment because I've just told you what I've had directly. So
I bet mine's worse than yours.
Mars didn't really have to do that is opposite of true.
I'm joking. I just think it's so funny how you got a doctor round. Your flat, your grubby flat.
It's not going to comment on the boxes. So I've got a lot of boxes, mate.
And you walked in and he goes, Jesus, you live here? You live here?
No, it's quite tidy now.
No wonder you're ill.
I mean, I think I got put a lot of effort into putting the boxes all one in.
One corner.
Took it out of me.
I've got a bit like Harry Hill's stand-up bit. He does that heckle where he says, someone tells to fuck off. He goes, you could tell me to fuck off, but I've got a lovely chicken in the oven.
You may say that, but I don't care.
And
I've never heard that.
I love that. Brilliant heckle. But similar to Harry, I got up early this morning and started breading some chicken for a lovely katsu curry.
Chicken? What did you do for chicken?
Breaded some chicken.
Breaded? Really?
Yeah.
What, like egg yolk?
Yeah.
Crumbs? Why?
Yeah, I'm making a katsu curry. Breaded chicken.
Mate, Deliveroo.
Pancake. It's much more rewarding and satisfying when you place a nice warm. Always amused me when Karl says that. What, the katsu curry?
Yeah.
So that's one food that I'm very excited about. I've been obsessed by ice cream recently.
Oh.
What's your favourite ice cream?
Well, I do like a Twister lolly.
Oh, you are such a Twister man.
But that's not really full ice cream. That's ice lolly. My favourite flavour has always been mint chocolate chip.
Yeah,
and I'm very firm on that. I'll go to my grave.
A lot of people's that's their least favourite. A lot of people.
Really?
Yeah. I love it. I'm with you as well.
Like you've got two contrasting flavours at once, and it's cold.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Well, I probably haven't had one since about 2006, but
oh god,
always go for mint chocolate chip.
I've just been eating it straight out the tub, me. Getting so excited about it.
Yeah. What's your favourite then?
Pistachio.
Okay. If this does
quite a modern flavour.
Go well. I was just going to say my least favourite.
I'm still on it.
Chocolate. Hate chocolate ice cream.
Chocolate is a waste.
Most people would say chocolate ice cream.
It's a waste, isn't it?
No, it's not acceptable. That's what I say to them in the shop. It's like, having an argument.
She goes, I do work in
little old woman. That's good.
Well, it's the weather, isn't it? It just makes you feel very good about things, doesn't it? It makes you feel positive.
Yeah, but I don't ever go and buy an ice cream. I just don't. Not, I'd like it to, but I just never do.
You've got to leave the flat, though, first.
Yeah, that's the point. The ice cream sellers come to me. They'll come out. They do home visit. Got some stethoscopes as well.
My sister wanted me. I was going to buy you can't get Zaps anymore, but they were like a £20 box of them. You get them delivered from some specialist retailer. Right. It's that delicious, like toffee coloured.
What was that?
It's like sort of toffee marbled kind of exterior. It's lovely.
No, I don't want that. No. But that's the other thing. This reason I don't get ice cream very much is it has to be a spur of the moment thing because
it is
tiny little freezer. As you were saying, it's frozen peas take up about over half of it, so I can't
get it.
I used to like choc ices.
Yeah, or the humble choc ice and screwballs.
No, I don't know. When you get to the actual ball, it was a bit too intense.
It's also not that satisfying.
Too much pleasure.
Chewing gum.
I don't want that cold. That could be done, without.
Anyway.
But yes, that's ice cream, and that's Mars's. Mars, you're going to say about dreams. You wanted to tell me off air, and you were so keen to do it on it.
Oh no, I just had a dream. It was just a really, really quick dream. It was we recorded a podcast, and I didn't press record.
Oh.
And genuinely was like, we've
done that.
That has happened.
Yeah.
It made me think it could happen again. But I've been very, very careful today.
Yeah. Once we did an interview, we like it had all gone. Like it had gone. But we called him up, it had gone to his who was that? That was a good interview.
Nigel.
See, we're recording now.
Yeah,
I think it would be better if we hadn't been.
Oh, no. Anyway, we had a suggestion, Gary, from Lone Wolfby. He said, please talk about Ricky's new stand-up in the next podcast, please. So we're going to do, Lone Wolfby, we're going to do a special on this for Patreons. So do head over to Patreon for lots of bonus Miles and Gary content, or buy us a coffee now. I've now set up a little... a Ko-fi page where you can buy us a little virtual coffee for £3 to keep the podcast running. But we are going to do a special. But just for now,
I do want to see every receipt from your accountant that was coming in.
It's just resting in my account. Know so have you watched it? Have you watched?
No, not fully. No,
Supernature.
No. Well, everything I've seen, the short clips have been everything I would expect in a good sense and in a bad sense. But
in what way?
I haven't seen lots of it. Well, he's kind of the similar, like his provocation. He's punching downwards, right? I don't think it's as offensive as some people have said. Like, I can get he could have done it and be funny about that subject, but he hasn't. He's more like someone I've read somewhere. Someone put that he's making millions of pounds now touring, basically with what he did on the XFM shows, and a lot of it is that it's the sort of chat that you'd get on the XFM shows, and he does it because he knows that he wants the people to say, "Oh, he should be cancelled." It's good for him. Someone said he's not a gateway to the far right, or they don't agree with that. This evidence proves my point. I think that he is a gateway to the far right. He's not far right. I've always been clear about that. But if you look online, the people defending him, or go onto their profiles if it's on Twitter, they will have some quite nasty nationalist, racist stuff.
But it's okay because it's the Jubilee, Gary. You can say whatever you want.
What? Does that
So it's the Jubilee. That's what it means.
No, but bad people. These are bad. And of course, there are many people who do like it. I understand that won't be bad people, but the sorts of people defending him are the sorts of people, if they're slightly high profile, they're from GB News, and they are on the far right. And it's a perfect example of how he's a gateway to the far right, because he isn't hateful, as much as people say, but it is kind of, he knows it will appeal to the worst possibility, and he doesn't do it. It could be done
sophisticatedly.
It's like every show I've ever seen of him stand up, just the little bits I saw.
Well, on that note, Robin Ince, who we've been trying to get on the podcast, so I do hope he does come on eventually. He writes a blog which is called Cosmic Shambles, and you might find this quite interesting. It says, as some of you may know, I have known Ricky for almost 30 years. I've toured with him, written with him, and been the bearer of the brunt for the practical jokes required to alleviate him of his tour boredom. Hung up on coat racks, buried on beaches, covered in makeup. We still talk, and one of the things we argue about the most is the subjects of his jokes and the nature of offence. I think it's easy to forget the collateral damage of jokes. Anti-trans punchlines seem to have become highly profitable, and it ignores the dehumanising effect on a swathe of already marginalised people. I think Ricky believes that it's just him being a naughty boy. I believe it makes him a pin-up and role model for the alt-right, which is sadly just the mainstream right nowadays, and whether he likes it or not, a useful ally in the culture wars. I know he's not a supporter of the alt-right ideology, but I see his words used as gifs and memes in support of the ideology. The problem with spending too much time on Twitter is that you can start to make mistakes on where the power really truly lies, and rarely does it lie with the people who have taken umbrage with you and have a few hundred followers. That's from Robin.
So much of that. I never read that, but was what I was saying.
It's very interesting. I'll put a link to the I'll put a link in the description, but do check that out, because it's a very interesting commentary really on the show more generally, but as someone who has clearly a connection with Ricky. But I have to say, for my part, he'll get his phone out at a random point to read saved tweets.
And Stuart Lee does that. That's Stuart Lee does that.
But Stuart Lee will do it in a very, very clever way, and he'll use it effectively as a prop, as part of the routine. Ricky's just using it to make a point. Someone in the audience, this is just a moment where I was like, oh, this is the kind of audience that he attracts nowadays. They laugh when the word rape is mentioned, and that's like, he just goes, so there was a man, and he was. Liam Neeson is talking about his wife or someone was raped, and someone in the audience goes, and Ricky goes, "That's not the funny bit." And you're like, "I'm sorry."
He planned that. He knows that's happening.
Of course, that wasn't added
because someone's. That's I mean, you could. I've tweeted, but very carefully, not about cases that are happening to do with that, but not. You make the humour something else. Ricky doesn't do that. He's using words just to kind of offend, and he'll use words
deliberately.
The word is as clever as it gets.
Well, he'll do this bit. He goes, and people talking about how you can't punch down, but sometimes you do have to punch down, like if you're fighting a disabled toddler.
Yeah,
and you're
okay,
but that's but you could just say toddler. If you want to say that, but he throws in the line a disabled toddler just because it's offensive, and the audience are just like lapdogs. They're just
at least he addressed it. I mean, I agree with you. I was just thinking that is a bit tasteless, but kind of the fact he's at least referencing the fact that people he knows that people say this about. That could have been the funniest bit. That I've heard.
Yeah, but I think the point is the Independent wrote a very kind of unfavourable review of it, 2-star. And he was saying how it's a very unfocused show, that he calls it Supernature, but all he really wants to talk about is comedy and the nature of offence. It doesn't even target the again, I'm only halfway through the stand-up myself, and I'm having to watch it quick as well because my mum's just cancelled their Netflix account. So I've got about 2 days to watch it.
You're not allowed to share anyway. I think
not nowadays. But I just all the audience go mad when he mentions how rich he is. They're like, why? And it's why is that? Why are we celebrating this fact? He's made loads of money. Brilliant.
If he that could be funny. I don't say he could do that.
But it was funny in the early noughties.
Yeah, but if he sort of, you could twist something on its head. If he did it well, it could work.
Everything could be made funny.
But he's kind of people who they will swear, they'll deny he's kind of on the gateway to the far right. They just don't want to see it. Look at his audience. Look at the people that are coming in and defending him. There might be bits of the show that are defensible, and there are people that are good that defend the show. But in general, you're getting a nasty kind of crowd.
I don't like.
He knows
people,
he is.
Yeah.
You know, the trans issue is a very complex one, which we're not going to go into now, anyway. But
whatever.
You know, I think things can be joked about, but you know, he just, apart from anything else, what annoys me the most is not how offensive it is, it's just how
boring.
How humour is.
Oh, just stop. Very noisy. I think it's finished now.
It's my nan. She's just
it just zoomed away.
It just comes on her Harley. Didn't let her in this time.
See, I'd laugh at that.
Yeah, well, that's what I should be doing. 2 nights at the O2.
Can you pretend to drink a can of Foster's though when you do it though?
Oh, that was the best part of Stuart Lee's. He did that so well. No words. He just everyone.
Oh, I love how you can use a working class beer to show that you're still in touch with your roots. And he would say that about his comedy. He'd go, "I'm still in touch with the regular people." It's not like, no, you're not. You're not. You're really not.
And that's okay. Like,
and that's fine. Of course it is.
It's just, don't deny, like, the people he hangs around with are like, some of them I agree with in terms of religion and things, that it's harmful, but he goes way too far. And he's kind of, you know, there's people like Richard Dawkins, okay, you know, they're not terrible, but then there are people who are much more right-wing, who he's going on podcasts, and, you know, he's legitimising them. Basically, Ricky knows, you know, he does that to get that audience. He knows the audience. Even though, I would say, he's not a very
profitable audience, though, isn't it?
He probably wouldn't vote for a far-right party, but he cultivates it. The same way, actually, Russell Brand has done, just but in very different, but they clearly, that's what he's doing.
Had someone stopped following us on Twitter because I reposted Farage said that he liked the stand-up, and I was like, what's happened to Ricky? And it was just, and it's funny that Farage and someone tweeted us saying pathetic unfollowing, and I was like, no, I'm allowed to have my opinion on it. And maybe as a general rule, I think it's good to not talk, that we try not to talk about politics both here and on our Twitter. No, but, you know, because that's not the purpose of our show. But at the same time, if you're attracting people like Farage, Lawrence Fox, Piers Morgan, you know, I'm sorry, but that I have my opinions on those people, and that's just how I feel.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and I didn't know Farage had said that, or you tweeted that, but that's a perfect example of what I'm saying. You know, he's not like Nigel Farage. If he had,
he's divisive, he wouldn't Nigel
do
Farage.
The same thing. Yeah, but he wouldn't do the politically the same things if he was in politics. But he's not. But Farage is defending him, and the people that aren't like that want to defend him and can't see that, they hate to see it because they won't admit it, because they don't want to be like associated with people like Farage and others. But trans issue is kind of complex anyway, so I know
it is.
It's not there is, you know.
What's a woman, Gary? What is a woman?
Someone who hasn't been here for 8 years. If you've been here for the last 8 years, you're a woman. You probably had a penis.
Well, hey, I think
anyway, that's
to give us our. I don't want to give people too much go, because I want people to tune in and listen to the Patreon.
We've just done it.
We could go into a lot of detail. Anyway, I just want to wrap this up.
Yeah, so we're here for episode 1, series 4.
We absolutely are, and we're going to do that.
We're a little bit playful today, a little bit.
I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to find.
Because we haven't done it for a while, and I know I've been terribly ill.
No, you haven't mentioned it.
No, I'm too sure I've had bad COVID. You know, Mars is fine. No, I swear that is a joke. But I think I don't know. I feel like
I think it's cool. Playful. I'm enjoying. I'm in a playful kind of mood. So we're doing episode 1 today, and we're going to split this show. Talked a bit about ice cream. Talked a little bit. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to review this week's show, and then we're going to split it in 2, like 2 conjoined twins. And the second twin will be a XFM in the Community extended edition, because we've got lots of lovely feedback, and we wanted to dedicate a proper show. So you got a bit for everyone. You've got a bit for people who just like the review, and a bit if you want a bit more. And we are incidentally also going to be putting out the Ladies' Night, Hello Ladies, Song for Ladies special.
There's no way edition. You can describe
that. So we're really catching up on lost time, aren't we? In 3 weeks, and then we'll just do a glut of new content.
I edit all the time. Miles,
you're
on this one.
He's editing now.
I've got doing it under the table.
I've got Audacity open. Can I just bring your attention to this tweet, and then I promise we'll start talking about the episode.
Did we really lose one follower? Did he actually unfollow?
There's just one. I think we gained a few as well.
Yeah.
It's all right. Don't worry. That's why.
Down to 3.
This was from a person called Joe Norris, who's an actor, comedian, I believe, and he said, "I auditioned for Ricky Gervais once, and at the end of the audition, he burst out laughing. That made me feel good, and then he wouldn't stop laughing and kept looking at everyone, encouraging them to laugh too. And it became clear he was laughing at his own performance and script. The last line he had to deliver in the scene was was 'fuck off, you fucking cunt,' or something like that, and it really made him crack up."
Who was this, an actor on Twitter?
Yeah, who was auditioning for Afterlife. Yeah.
That's when you're filming.
I'm sorry, like, I don't want to be slag. I honestly.
Wait, because there's a police car in the backfield.
Yeah. That's my nan. She's just been caught on a
Harley
Davidson.
She's got to you now, stealing a couple of birds' nests. But no, what were you just saying?
The tweet.
The tweet, yeah. If you film in the office and you're cracking up, brilliant. That's totally worth cracking up. Almost every line you could crack up because it's so good. So it doesn't matter if he's laughing. He deserves to laugh at his own work. But yeah, he just likes
fuck off, you
words.
Fucking cunt.
Yeah,
it's good, isn't it?
And he uses
not my audience.
He uses the C word in Afterlife. And he does a thing with a kid that's so old, seen it done so many times about him joking about paedophiles. If he'd done that, it wouldn't have been that he would have necessarily offended me if he'd done it really well. But it wasn't funny. And then what are you left with? Just a naughty word.
Swear words. Well, we are gonna. Well, there is.
We're going to be doing a review in September or special. We've got to go through all his work. Be enthusiastic about it.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. We've got our live show coming up in September for the RSK convention. Tickets still available, so do check that out.
And I just say we don't, we're nuanced in our opinions. We never kind of slag.
We have got to say this because we don't get very many bad comments. I've got one coming up, which I
know I've read it.
With it. But I do want to make this absolutely clear. We are fans of Ricky. We love Ricky. It just so happens whenever, a new thing comes out, which it does, we are going to be critical, and you have to. I wouldn't be gushing over anyone, even someone other comedians who I still like the work of.
No.
I think it's just about being fair, isn't it?
Yeah, I never expect The Office. That's not fair, to that standard. But, it's just got lower and lower and lower. So I still don't hate him, but it's mixed. It's like with the XFM shows, he's very good. He says, they talk about offensive things there, but
even
somehow
today,
he judges it very well, and it's still funny, but he doesn't do the humour as well, but he still does the offensive stuff. And someone put that on Twitter. He's basically he's doing now, his whole stand-up show is 2 years of XFM.
It is, and actually, I've got a lot of XFM in the community, one of which was I asked people earlier, can you show me your genitals?
That was me. I asked that. I put that.
I know. I asked people, what does everyone feel about XFM material being reused in latter careers? But let's move on to the actual review.
Yeah, we've done the fucking hell. I'm tired now.
We'll do a 3-episode special. Anyway, I'm ill. This week we discussed Series 4, Episode 1, 28th of May 2005. The show returns. Ricky and Steve are standing in for Adam and Joe. I remember when they stood in for us. They comment about how nothing has changed except the listenership has possibly gone down, and because each year a few old XFM listeners die of smack addiction or gout. Ricky unveils some genuinely exciting prizes for Rockbusters, and Karl talks about his testicles, then gets a champagne cork shot at his head. I'll put a link to the show in the description, and when you're ready, you can come back for our little debrief. Which is...
Don't bother coming back.
No! Just now, they've literally dropped off now.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Gary Forrester, or Gazmeister General, what did you make of this return of Ricky Gervais? Because we've only got about, 6 episodes left, and then we've done Series 4, and this is the first one. What did we think?
It's good. I think it's good, but it's not great. There's points that, where you're listening, even if you're listening back for a show, you kind of tune out for 10 minutes. There's in the really good shows, you don't tune out at all. So I was obviously paying attention. It didn't grab me, but I would never make wider points. It's harder to make wider points about the first in each series because they're in different ways. They're going to be trying to introduce Karl to what they know is a new audience. So it's not the same as what.
But most of the listeners have died. You're forgetting that.
No, but yeah, I know. But they would have had a whole new audience because they would have done other things by then. So it's kind of
someone on the tube.
Yeah. But I get it. It's not going to be one of the best ones because I don't like really the ones. I get a bit bored when they ask Karl questions and get to know Karl. But it's kind of needed. They need to kind of introduce Karl as if you didn't know who he was. Whereas in other episodes, that's not the case. So it was a bit disappointing. From my memory of it was better, but it had a few laughs. I don't think I've got. I hope I've written notes for favourite lines. Let me check. I'm not sure I did. But there wasn't anything killer. There was nothing brilliant about it, but it wasn't a terrible one.
I liked a lot of the sort of topical stuff which they talk about, stuff on happiness. But it does feel at this point that the show is feeling like it's naturally coming to the end of its life cycle and kind of transitioning into the podcast. Or I don't know, they just seem a little bit more like they can't sort of wait for it to end, and there's a lot of recycled material both in this episode obviously because they're introducing Karl again, but also in all of the series. And Karl obviously has so much to give, and he gives a lot. Like, you got to think where this sits in the kind of canon, series 4, but then after this we go straight into An Idiot Abroad, which for my money is one of the best TV programs ever. Stand by that.
Probably the thing that comes closest to the XFM shows. They're not trying to be the same, but in terms of quality, because the podcasts are good. They've got some brilliant moments, the podcast. The animation's fantastic that she did, but they're very different. And yes, as you say, this is a transition from the earlier series into podcasts. They probably already knew that they were going to do podcasts at this point. And, this show has there's a lot at the beginning they've discussed. They haven't scripted it, but it's kind of stuff they know, which is the first show back. There's going to be more, but I don't like stuff I like it when it's when they just go into a little thing like we've actually got 2 left, and there's no planning because it's happened so late in the show.
But there's always a bit of a wobbly start though, isn't it? Like our show case example of that.
We're about an hour in. We haven't properly started yet.
But they do sound. I do think they sound different, and it does feel like a different. Yeah, well, that comes up in this show, doesn't it? That sounded great. But this is 6 months later. Ricky's just come back. He's just which I find this mad in the timeline. He's just written for The Simpsons for the Homer Simpson "This Is Your Wife" episode.
That's a good point.
And that was such a big deal. I remember people talking about the fact that British comedians been writing for. I think because obviously that's like writers' room show, isn't it? But
they put a lot of celebrities in, but they never, I don't think, before had, which shows the absolute, astronomical, totally deserved, where Ricky was because of The Office. And they just, people who like comedy, they loved it. But it actually was not funny, his episode that he wrote for The Simpsons.
It wasn't great.
It was, to me, it was.
We should do a review of that on the Patreon.
I haven't seen it for so long.
Well, you always like The Simpsons.
This is your wife.
It's like a wife swap episode. Do you remember the show Wife Swap? Love that show. They should bring that back.
Wife swap. Oh, they do one with Debbie
I
McGee.
loved that. They do that with your mum.
Wife swap. Yeah. Well, there's too many to go around here. Hang on a minute. How many? We've got to divide this by. But yeah, it was a big deal. You're right. British comedian. They allowed him to write it. I don't blame him that it wasn't that good because it's a new sort of thing for him.
It's all right.
And if you're offered to do that, it was okay. But that showed how highly he was regarded and how famous he'd suddenly become. And I'm not like jingoistic. I do any British person do. Like
what does jingoistic mean? Sorry.
Sort of nationalistic.
Okay.
Like I love Britain.
Flag waving.
Britain,
Gary, ounces and pounds are coming back.
Oh,
the old metric. Is that metric or imperial? So I don't even know that.
Well, I can see how much my penis weighs again. No, I did that once, but it was very light.
I don't care. I don't care. Sorry.
No, that was where he was, and he earned that right, and they gave it to him. And you know, I don't mind ever the kind of jokes he makes about himself, how big he is now, because they could always work. They could always be good, but he doesn't do them like that. He does them arrogant. Like most of the times during the XFM years, when he hasn't got the fame. When he talks about how famous he is or something like that, he does it very cleverly, and it's funny, and it's kind of a bit self-deprecating, you know, based on like his difference between him and Steve, what they're earning, you know, it's fun. He makes it funny. So it's not now. It's kind of, that's the basis. He's forgotten the humour. We're back on the stand-up again.
So they are standing in for Adam and Joe. And can I just say,
we're still at the intro bit.
Can I just say to everyone, do check out those original Adam and Joe XFM shows, because they are great. They're just at the start of their media career. They're just on the Adam and Joe show, and they'll move on to do Six Music after this. But as a fan of radio and radio comedy, it's probably thing as close to the XFM RSK shows as you're going to find. Their general dynamic and their relationship is lovely, and their humour's so on point as well. Like,
it's different from the XFM shows, of course.
They're just pop cultural junkies, and they're so irreverent, and they're like,
I just haven't got into them, not because I just don't. I like them. Well, I've seen them on TV.
You'd love them, Gary.
Yeah, you'd love the Johnny Vaughan show. He doesn't do it anymore. It was a sport one about football, but he was about not.
So I like Atletico Mints.
It was not about football. It was with him and James Brown and Gavin Woods. They met that day, the first time of the show. Yeah. They say none of them Johnny knew one of them, like two hadn't met, and they just turned the mic on. It's just natural. They do all the off-air bits on air, like the Ricky Gervais show. It's not as good as the Ricky Gervais show, but you'd love it. If I can find some old parts of you, because Johnny Vaughan, it doesn't. He's a football fan, but he knows nothing about football. Like, he can't banter, so it's kind of ironically about that. But it's only once a week. Anyway, I like in this, not anything to do with what we're reviewing.
No, not at all. I like how in this episode it is the return of it's a callback to a previous show where about the swearing sketch.
Yes,
and it's like how you have to bleep out the vowels, because Emmanuel Kant and you Willy Wonka, always Willy's word, Willy Wonka and his folking cunt. So it's the vowel that is offensive. It's nice to see that feature that was never a feature. It's not some of the best stuff that's ever gone out.
No, it's interesting, because that probably was exactly what they had.
Exactly.
So as I listened back, I did think, what's changed? Like, Karl's quite relaxed about it. He doesn't kind of get too...
Oh, he does get quite nervous.
He gets nervous,
very nervous.
Yeah, but Ricky was literally stopped by Andrew Phillips. Like, he could not go out. So, but now suddenly it can go out. It's not my favourite bit, because he overdoes it. Don't do the C.
I think the concept is fundamentally flawed as well. I sort of half understand it.
If he'd never done what he did after that, like how he is in the podcast, how much he swears openly, then that little skit in this episode wouldn't be too bad. But knowing what he goes on to do, which he is genuinely interested in the swear words when they're not needed, he massively uses them and enjoys it. So knowing that from this show, it was a bit uncomfortable. It wasn't my favourite bit. It's funny when Karl gets anxious,
right. It's funny.
It's funny.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because
I just I just love those little bits.
Yeah, we've said before, because he's kind of like
he's getting to try to get
what other producer has to deal with that from the presenter? But it's like we said, Ricky's better when he's got more constraints around him. There's a lot of people. You have to be more creative. So he couldn't swear there. So it could have been a good sketch, but I know that Ricky isn't doing it because it's like cleverly nearly that, but never going there. It's like he was desperate to actually say the words. He genuinely wanted to, for the sake of it.
Willy Wonka.
It wasn't. Yeah, that bit, that's funny because it's stupid. But Emmanuel Kant. I mean,
and
I'm
Essex
not offended,
is full of Kant,
really,
isn't it?
but I wouldn't say the C word. Like, would you joke like that? I don't think I would.
I quite like the C word. You've run
out of ideas when you use it.
I think you've got to use it sparingly. I like how they film the cork hit in the head, which is some of the only footage
that
exists.
I've seen in the studio.
There's there's a picture of like, there's a really grainy 4 pictures. But I think he says it in the Claire episodes, doesn't he? That they had a webcam, but it takes a picture every like few seconds. To think that's how basic webcams were. Do you remember like putting a webcam on in the early noughties for like MSM and stuff? And it was really like, it really was grainy, and it captured any kind of move, and it was like buffering.
No, even like I didn't even have a camera in those days, because I remember MSN. I remember before, when a radio station, you had to fax them. We did have fax
turned into a Peter Kay bit, this has.
So we faxed. I used to fax TalkSport, but then turned to email. But yeah, it was kind of, there's a lot of references like that, like eBay, EBAY.
Yeah.
It's like the most known. I would like to find out who has those webcams.
Oh, I'd love to see them. Just to see them together in a studio, it's exciting.
Yeah, guys, I've like literally, where does Karl sit and how do they arrange themselves? I know Ricky lies down, but sort of what? Just see.
Doesn't wear headphones. Yeah,
I think they weren't saved. But if anyone knows where that is, I'll pay good money.
I bet we could be guests. We got lots of guests coming up as well, incidentally, guys. We've still got Ian Morris. We will talk to him. I promise you will.
About 28 things happened between the three of us. Ian Morris and last night that meant we.
And we've also got the director of the Ricky Gervais Show animated TV series, and he also did a lot of.
I don't even know about this. He books his own guests.
I do all of this
I'm
stuff.
Happy. No, I do.
Don't worry about it.
It's just funny because you're telling the listeners, but you're telling me as well, so it's useful.
It's nice to get news at the same time. Vic Sharma, who was the composer for An Idiot Abroad and lots of Steve projects, you got to be nice to him as well, because we're using his theme music, and he could have us done for copyright, even though I have purchased the license.
Right, yeah, because I paid money to you for that license. So.
Gary, do you...
What about that Tony Hart music?
Gary, what about Celebrity Love Island? How about that? To think where that show's come from.
Yeah.
And how big it is now.
Such a joke. No one watched it. It was a disaster like 10 years ago. And then they rebranded it, and it's still as shit, if not worse. But somehow... everyone, like people on my Facebook, you can see like
it's the most. Can I tell you this? In 2020, it was the most watched TV show amongst its target audience of 16 to 34-year-olds.
Well, target audience, that's like a bracket, but it would be 16.
You've just out of that one, Gary. You're just out of that target audience.
Yeah, I've like 5 years ago.
You tried to listen to Radio 1, and your radio and your radio just exploded.
Dane Bowers, I think he was on it.
Good song.
It's the most. Who I don't understand. There's Jeopardy, but it's all kind of script. It's not scripted, but how could you ever watch it and think, oh yeah, they're getting a relationship and things when they've got cameras all around. It can never be natural.
I think I stopped listening.
Is it porn? Do they actually show the sex?
I don't think so.
Well, I'll check next time. But
no, I think it's just a more salacious Big Brother from Ironsander. But I stopped watching Big Brother like years ago, probably like when Nadia won, whenever that was.
Yeah, I was about the same, but I used to watch every series, and where the sex parts were actually, they got told off, and they were never allowed to be under the covers with the same person. They had that rule.
Oh, things have changed now. You get shows like Naked Attraction.
Yeah, but as the series went on, little things happened.
And
then they put a jacuzzi in, and there was some sex under the, and it was a big thing. Now it's like it's Love Island. Well, the sex is the whole thing.
But instead of like glamour models, which were like in, well, that was in the original. That Abby Titmuss, Rebecca Lewis. God, I remember like they were pin-up girls, weren't they, for that generation? I remember. I mean, I was one of those boys, and I'm ashamed to say this. Access was quite limited back in the day, so I did buy Nuts and Zoo. To my shame,
I know,
my eternal shame. But
I was older than you, so I had more of an excuse not to. But I bought it.
I just remember seeing those people. They just popped up. Lucy Pinder, Kelly Brook. Do you remember her?
Yeah, in the middle, there'd be like they'd almost be naked. There'd almost be a breast showing
on the seam.
They couldn't quite.
Just a bit of side boobage.
And obviously, but no, I did get them, and also, we looked at the internet. It's not a bad thing, But I don't so. Now. If I want, Pornhub, then I will go to Pornhub and spend 3 hours there. I don't want the sort of in between thing with.
Who else has seen this filth?
Yeah,
who else has seen this filth?
He dumps her and she dumps him, and it's like
I just got no interest in it.
I don't care.
I know.
Yes, they look very nice. and the men.
It's got to be more interesting than that, hasn't it?
But it's like you're basing everything on that. So what was this, 2004? So that was a long time ago.
Quite a long time ago.
But it was a joke, and that's fine. How they whoever rebranded that, whoever was behind that,
a genius,
should be a millionaire because he deserves it. I don't like it.
How you could take a dead concept like that. Also, other things that
we just did. We just took a dead concept and played with it for half.
I think we could do the Trout spinners on Love Island. One of us go on. I'd love to see that.
Well, I think it'll have to be you. I think.
Well, I can't. I'm with partner.
But I don't think I look like.
Yeah,
it's a bit blurry on camera. No, I don't look. Hopefully terrible.
Well, other thing that people
imagine me stood next to all the other men. Like me now.
The camera would just pan down. Look, there'd be a fly buzzing around your hair.
Be a warning. What you're about to see, Nicholas.
Other things that bit creepy, bit weird. Karl had a vision of that Chinese flu. See.
Oh yeah.
And lo and behold, where are we? Gary had it just the other day. He hasn't mentioned it once.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it, but it was. I had 3 interventions, professionals.
Doing well though.
I might not recover, but if you could maybe send me some money for that. Miles is having an easy time. So
Kofi.
Totally, I'm joking. It was really bad, but I'm fine now. So
God for that.
It's like when SARS, I dismiss it. That's why I dismiss COVID.
What, SARS?
In the beginning.
And monkeypox.
SARS no one got SARS. I guarantee you don't know anyone with SARS, neither did I. It just didn't kind of happen. And I was convinced of that with COVID. Do you remember that time we met in London? And it was no one quite knew what was happening, but we did know. Looking back now, how it went, crazy. It's kind of eerie to hear.
Someone did actually get in touch with us. They want to know your thoughts on lockdown, but that's coming up in our XFM in the Community Extended special.
Well,
I think so.
Okay.
Unless I'm misreading it. Hey, Gary, I've got some questions. Quick fire questions for you.
Could we do some slow ones so it's more boring?
Very quick. Questions for Gary. These are the questions.
I'm going to talk at length about all these answers. You know that.
About Feeder, who's thinking philosopher. It's the lead singer of Feeder. We've got Gary Forrestal, so it's all right. Gary, what is your idea of perfect happiness? And can I just say, I love Karl's answer to this. The fish fingers, potato cakes and beans. Because
it's true. That's true.
And also, who isn't absolutely delighted when they get... I wouldn't have the beans, personally. No, my idea of perfect happiness would be the fish fingers and the potato cake.
Well, I used to put fish fingers in a sandwich and eat them like that.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's a class.
It's like, Karl would probably choose that over an expensive restaurant.
Hey, of course he
would choose an expensive restaurant.
A duck confit or something.
But we'd still, it's nice that he kind of...
I love it.
He's childlike, but in the sweetest way. Because you do, potato cakes, it takes you back.
So, Gary, what's your idea of perfect happiness?
Oh, yeah, probably...
Quick answers.
When I've just made a good link between 2 articles, and I've linked them together to form one point fusion.
Comedy. That's what comedy is.
Oh yeah, actually, tweet. Yeah, when a tweet goes well, that's good.
That's perfect happiness for you.
You know what? When life is hard, you tweet more. Like when
that's
it's
true.
Not very hard. It's like the lower you are, sometimes the more you tweet. When I look back, they're the good ones. That's just a moral point about
What is your greatest fear?
Creativity. I told you. What greatest fear?
Polystyrene.
Oh, okay, yeah. It affects me just hearing it.
Yeah, it's your trigger. Which living person do you most admire? Living.
Shirley Bassey.
If we had to say, but someone in the work arena, someone who's perhaps a male, and
that's the best thing you've ever done to link that.
That was in the script.
You are one, but no, I'd say Harry Hill.
Yeah, I would say so too.
I would have said on par with Noel Gallagher, but I was tweeting today actually to someone to say he's gone a bit down, similar to Ricky, that rabbit hole. But he's so funny. He's such a clever guy, and he wrote all those tunes.
My mum watched Liam on Jules Holland, some boogie woogie.
You saw Liam live with your mum, didn't you? And
I
you
did,
thought he was
yeah.
Shit. It was shit.
I did. I wasn't a big fan. But do you believe in capital punishment?
No.
Okay.
Except to Dr. Fox. But no, I'm totally against it for any crime.
Okay. What is your greatest regret?
Probably ruling out capital punishment at an early age. What's my biggest regret? Kidnapping those.
Well, I was going to say, no, let's
tourists.
Be serious. Because
I'm trying to think.
I was going to say, was it not studying? But you are actually studying now.
No, I like it, yeah. But I had to go back. I don't really.
Do you regret much things in your life? Can't imagine you do.
I don't think I'd say. What do you regret? I'm trying to think. As you say,
I regret not having the confidence to do creative stuff earlier. That's something that I feel quite depressed about, because I just think I look at these young comics and I do aspire to be there. You're not young, mate. I look at these people, influencers, bloggers, or whatever, and I've got such admiration for them. I know it's easy to be dismissive and what a load of shit, but at least they're fucking doing it. I would love to have been like that. If I could go back and tell my younger self something, I'd say don't be put off by something. Be really confident. You're guaranteed. You'll get something. I'd like to have started this podcast earlier. I would have liked to have but you don't. But you've also got to bear in mind what I really like about there's that quote that you've often said about age and creativity, and it's from Ricky as well, which shows how introspective and awesome he is when he says it's when he talks about Jane said, "Oh, why couldn't I have been more successful earlier?" I'm writing The Office, which he wrote at 37, and Jane said, "Because you wouldn't have been ready then." And there's a lot of truth in that. You become successful and reach your the heights of your career when you're ready. Everyone's journey is completely different.
Yeah, a lot of people get into comedy later than they used to. Probably in the 90s. I guess you were, apart from Harry Hill, you're kind of doing it in your early 20s. Now you've got people who do that, but you've also got people who, like Greg Davis, other people who's
much older.
The American.
And he works when the...
Anyway, he just, in his 30s sometime, just someone said, get out.
Well, someone I don't know got
Reginald D. Hunter. Reginald D. Hunter.
Thanks very much.
I'm not a massive fan, but
he's awful.
It's good to think that not everyone has made it, because you've been like this since I've known you. So since you were 10 years younger, you've thought about the younger generation behind you. You thought you passed it. So
that's true.
Now you're kind of there is a generation.
I'm your age when I met you.
You're younger than that.
We should say actually it's going to be about what our 10-year anniversary as friends, isn't it?
Yeah, could we get sent some Amazon gift cards or something? Just £50.
We should do some. We'll have to do a live stream special for that.
Yeah, find out what the day is, because you've got all the old shows. So it'll probably be about 3 weeks before whatever the first. When is the first one? Do you find memory?
I can't remember that,
because I think it is about literally now that we met. I know it's the summer.
Wow, maybe we'll do a live show.
It was the summer time.
It was the summer of '69.
I do one of my
Brian
poems.
Adams does come up in this week. There's a knock on the door. Get kind of nervous. It's just room service.
Yeah.
And that sounded great. Christian O'Connor. They do mention that that thing actually, that bounty hunter. I remember. Did Steve mention that? No, it was Matt Everett. Matt Everett talked about Christian O'Connell used to have a feature, the bounty hunter one, where you had to run into the row, just start a conversation with a celebrity and get them into the studio.
It would be like elite, like health and safety, and it would be stopped at so many levels.
I know,
but it wasn't. It's fine to do. But
and the last question, Gary.
We were going to do that. Get a mic, and I'll go and interview people around.
Smell it.
Have
you ever seen a badger? Would you like mosaics?
I did a tweet about Timmy Mallet. I'll send you. I think you'll like it.
Look forward to that. What keeps you awake at night? Last one.
Searing pain. No, my brain chemicals.
True. Overthinking.
When I sleep well. But when I don't sleep, I don't sleep.
Pointless, because you have that on, don't you, as well? That's quite loud.
Yeah, I like Pointless. Very strong medication called Zolpidem. Nice. Do you remember Rosie O'Donnell?
He's trying to get a freebie from Sofa Trend.
Yeah. Do you remember Roseanne Barr?
Yeah.
She went mental. She's said all this shit.
Yeah.
She was on that medication. She blamed that medication that I
Did she?
Same thing.
God, and one day you'll be as successful as her.
It is powerful. I saw some little goblins. Like, if you don't go to bed.
I tell you, talking about hallucinogenics, I'm going to Amsterdam next week.
Well, and he's asked me if he can have a split.
Smoke to herb.
I would say yes to other people, but I know what you're like. You won't stop.
I'm a little bit nervous.
No,
it's quite more.
It's much better to do smoke some weed.
I think I'm going to have a little.
Are you comfortable
have a little nibble?
Who you're going with? Are you really comfortable in their company, or is it?
I'm comfortable. I feel he's quite an unreliable presence, though.
Okay, it's just you're going to have to deal with a lot of tears that are going to come. So I don't answer it.
But if any listeners do have any suggestions for things that I can do on my trip to Amsterdam, please email in spinnerspodcast@gmail.com, because at the moment I've got no ideas. I'm running on empty. I don't know what to do.
I'd see a prostitute. That's fine. I'd honestly rather do that. Rather you did that.
Hey, you're on that note of I was going to say transmitting sex disease, and this is just a conversation. I think we've got enough here, so I just want to end on this. Karl talks about going to the health clinic.
Yeah.
That he wasn't happy with the finger up the arse. Yeah. Which I think that's a much better thing that he says. That Ricky says, compared to the swearing thing. I love it because we're on the radio. Just say it quietly. Arse.
Yeah.
Arse. That's funny. That's much funny.
And I admire that bit because they stick with that in other things like little video clips, and they've been good on that. Like,
are you wanking? Are you wanking now?
No, but they kind of make it as a joke. But I think it is a serious message to get across. So it's helpful. That's one thing he's been good on. But by joking about it, it's publicising. Because back then, this wasn't 2000. People did. Yeah. Like now, there's campaigns, football campaign.
I went on I was just down the street, and now it's like testicular cancer, and literally it's not advertising testicular cancer. No. It's like a 30% off. It's like an image of a doctor, someone looking a bit sort of anxious, but saying men get checked out, whatever. Then like loads of organisations and businesses, I think Lad Bible bizarrely here's what you need to do to get checked out and stuff like that, which is brilliant.
Because men don't.
Well, I've always been very, very open about this sort of stuff, even the early years of knowing you, and about my general health anyway, because I do panic about that. Just whinge.
No, he doesn't. He's not. But you do talk about it. But
but that's what I mean. But I've never. I remember the first time where I had my fellas groped by a doctor, consensual. I was very young, and the hardest thing of it. I wasn't worried about going to the doctors. It was telling my mum.
Oh right. Why?
It was telling because we've never been like prudish, but similar household. You're not going to watch Meet Joe Black with my parents, but but it was that thing of I don't want her to like. I was like, do I ask her if she can help me? Obviously not, because it's totally weird.
Yeah.
But then it's that thing of, Mum, I've got a problem. I can't tell you where the problem is, but I can loosely I've got a doll here, and I can show you on the doll where the pain is.
Yeah. I can stick this right up inside.
Your fire!
So, was it because you didn't want to worry her in general, or you just don't like talk? You can't mention that. Because I think it was
I felt like I couldn't talk about it with her, but I feel I'm very close with but it's not toilet stuff. It's
not at all. I'm just saying that I'm with family, and they're the least
of course
I'm going to talk. But most people, they would talk openly about with their family if no one else. But me, I'm the opposite. I hate anything like that with my family. Yeah, what this is. That's more interesting.
But it was more important, wasn't it? Because she obviously is going to organise the doctors. I would never have organised that myself.
Were you a child, or were you young?
Yeah, I was. I think I was about like 10, something like that. Maybe.
Worry. Yeah.
I was big. No. Maybe 10's. No, 10's quite young. 18. What? So you've gone from 10 to 18?
Leave that for me to do. Sorry. Play the open goal. Well, let's say you're about 14 or so.
Yeah, it was.
I remember going for an ECG, which was fine. I've never had my heart. I've never been so nervous. I was convinced it was definitely like heart failure. Like it's just a bit of pain. And the ECG was fine, and it immediately went away. Like it was in my mind, like I was thinking it.
Oh.
And it's just. Yeah, so now, I think my heart's going to go soon. But over that, we do, it's natural to have worries.
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
It is. Yeah. But my advice to any men, and I know because I'm a big advocate of this, is have zero shame about your body. Get it checked out as early as possible if you have any thoughts, problems. And I think, talk about to the friend. The friend might be like, oh, that's quite weird. But actually, I think when you mention something the first time, a lot of people are just waiting for that first person to break the ice. That's always been my experience. And then they'll open up and they'll go, oh, I've got this problem too. And then sooner or later, you're probably talking about weird pimples, spots, disgusting scars
we've
that you've got.
That. We've done that many times, I think.
Yeah,
we don't do it too much. We're not obsessed.
No, we don't.
I've had those conversations.
Yeah.
But it's usually comes back to me needing
finger up arse.
I actually don't mind that. That I'll allow. I quite happily have that. It's up the But
well, hey,
good words, and I agree. I endorse them, and I think we should finish this section on what you just said.
Well, do you think, or shall we do some favourite quotes before we finish?
Okay.
We haven't done favourite quotes. Incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this episode, or you have something to say, or you have a favourite quote, get in touch. spinnerspodcast@gmail.com, or that's on Twitter. That's Spinners Podcast. What's your first quote, Gary Forrester?
Well, the first one is it's a noise when he goes, because I know what he means when they go. Steve goes, well, I remember when they were standing in from us, and Ricky just goes, I don't.
Yeah.
And what he's saying there,
good...
he's not saying, I don't know, like
directly.
What he's saying is like, that's a typical saying. What are you saying? Like everyone says that. Like it's perfect captured in that little.
I love that. It's such a good observation. That brilliant. Yeah. What would you do if there was a war on? Go on holiday.
Go on holiday.
just think. Yeah. That's brilliant.
That's a good one. That'd be worse.
That'd be worse, wouldn't it? Roger.
It's funny. Like, it would be worse. He's right.
I don't think I've ever heard you laugh as boring as just you.
It's a funny scenario. I do like that bit.
And 3 years later, exactly where we started.
Yeah.
Got Mondays off now, though.
Yeah, love it.
That is just Karl, impeccable comic timing there.
Perfect timing.
Spectacular.
Typical bit. None of it had been set up or planned. They just it was good from both of them, but together, fused together, it's really good. My little how that works. I don't know. My bollocks. No, Ronnie Corbett. I love that bit as well. I've used that line. We talk about lines used out of context to people in life. That I've used several times.
No, Ronnie Corbett.
I've used it as my own, and no one likes it because
that's good.
Only me that finds it funny. It's the perfect person that Ricky could have come up with on the spot.
This one, which I think I want to put in the ring for episode title. Try both.
Try both, yeah. That's like one of the 5 phrases you might use that you'd pick for the whole XFM years. Because
try both.
It's so iconic.
It's
not the funniest thing, but it is fun. It's funny.
In context. What's your next one?
People who are sort of fans, but they're not real mega fans, they might know that. Try both. Anyway, I think I've stolen because I haven't got any more.
Oh, really? Do you not?
No, they're in another file. Wait one.
You know.
Oh, okay. I found them. Right. Look at what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
I'm not. Would I?
What's that from?
Tell me. I don't know. I'm not. Would I?
It does.
I mean, it's a little aside from Ricky. I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Email in if you know.
This is unacceptable from a presenter that I've done this.
Oh, I thought it was that quote.
No, what I mean. This is what I'm saying. This is unacceptable.
I mean, you haven't seen my notes. My notes are very clearly laid out, context in brackets, really nicely formatted. You should
about 12 files on.
Yeah, I'm not looking. What can you do with someone who's mental?
Yeah,
on the nature of capital punishment. Wow.
Yeah, it's true though. I'm not going to get into the serious side of that, but there are people who are legally, mentally incapable who have been put to death. So that's wrong. So
when's your appointment?
It's actually quite when's my appointment for what? Honestly, right? I'm going to send you this screenshot. So
please don't.
I can't because I'm on Twitter. I write my tweets in different files, so I've got so many. It's totally my fault and no one else's.
Well, I could do one to fill in.
I need a schnit.
Have some good wedding photos done in that.
That's good.
Do you know what though? Actually, when he says
so insulting.
Name me it was so
brilliant.
But when he says name me a Chinese actor who's on telly first. What's the great gamut of Chinese talent on television? And it's like that's not a problem with Chinese talent. That's a problem with representation of Asian minorities on television, isn't it?
You'd say same about Japanese. Same about what French. celebrities are on British TV. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just saying, like, it's
tell your face.
I think Ricky was just making it. It was just funny.
I know, no, it was.
It's a good way of dealing with that ridiculous point that Karl's made. Like, tell me one that you've seen on the telly, and that's my last quote that I've got, which is about 49. Which is
about 49. So I've got 3 quick. So wonked off a pog.
Yeah, I hate that.
I mean, I remember Rebecca Lou's wanking off a pig on Channel 5's The Farm.
Just
that was
because she
ridiculous.
Apparently had an affair with David Beckham, and that was all. And then
her
whole career is that. He is
maybe
quite attractive.
David. I tell her I love her, but that's it. I tell her I love her, but the point may be moot.
Yeah,
and that sounded great.
That's really good. Yeah, very perceptive.
But the point
because it is. Yeah, it's the kind of phrase that they have always.
How do you
hated.
say moot? Do you say moot or do you say mute?
Well, the word mute you can silence, which is mute. If the point is irrelevant, it's moot.
Oh, are they 2
mute.
Words then?
Yeah, they're 2 separate words.
I thought it was, but the point may be mute. That's how I'd say it.
No,
but if it's moot.
No, what's it called? The words that sound the same. No one's going to pick you up on it, except me. But it is mute.
I did bring it up.
And it's mute. It's a far more common word, mute, which we do to a TV to turn off the sound. And a lot of listeners have already done with this show.
Well, guys, can I just say...
put the visual out, but it's still better.
Yes, but look, if you are still with us and you haven't mooted us...
I've been naughty today. I've been too...
It's been all right.
We haven't done it for ages.
I'm enjoying your mood today. Let's keep it up for part 2, where we're going to do a special bonus extended edition of XFM in the community. Keep your energy up, Gary. It's going to be a long show.
I've got to get some Sauvignon Blanc, probably.